If you're a Laker fan, I have a remarkable treat for you today because I really think there's 4 videos worth of content in this one video based off of the information that I heard yesterday and the information that I got this morning. And I really hope that by the time I drop this video, we don't get even more Laker news that I should have potentially sandwiched in here. So real quick before we get to the content, I wanted to remind you guys that my super team of idiots that decided to make a podcast, the Laced Up Podcast, is giving away a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on that channel. When we get to 40,000 subscribers, we're about 8,400 subscribers away from hitting that mark, and it's probably the best odds you have for winning a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X on any platform. In addition to this is going to be my first of 2 videos. I think this is like my 5th video in the past 24 hours on this channel. If you don't want to subscribe and turn on our notifications on this channel because you hate me or something, that's okay. But if you could at least leave a like, because you can't deny that I at least put in work for you guys, and I would greatly appreciate your support as a result of that. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? There's just so much information and news in regards to the Los Angeles Lakers, from potential moves that they want to make in the offseason, all the way until some potential beef that Kyle Kuzma may have had with Dennis Schroder this past year. Now, I like telling you guys on this channel multiple times that winning typically cures everything. The best example of this was John Collins and the Atlanta Hawks apparently didn't get along with each other in the beginning of the season. John Collins apparently had a problem with the way Trae Young played basketball. He felt like Trae Young was some sort of isolation vacuum that didn't really share the ball with him. And as a result, in the middle of the season, John Collins actually was on the verge of being traded, but the Atlanta Hawks wanted at least a lottery draft pick in return for him. Since they didn't get that, we all know what would end up happening. The head coach of the Atlanta Hawks at some point, Lloyd Pierce, would get fired. Nate McMillan would step up as the interim head coach. He's now the full-time head coach because he was able to lead the Atlanta Hawks to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I at least assume at this point that John Collins is going to remain on the roster. We made a video on potential Atlanta Hawks offseason moves and the fact that their owner came out and said that he may not be able to keep the team together. If you want more information that pertains to the Atlanta Hawks and you don't just want them to be used as an analogy, I highly recommend you check that out. But in the Los Angeles Lakers situation, since LeBron James happens to be on the team, well, the media likes to create narratives where they suggest that the Los Angeles Lakers may potentially go out and sign some sort of superstar free agent, or actually in this case trade for a superstar like Russell Westbrook or Chris Paul, which was the rumor about 2 days ago. And every single time a rumor like that comes out, I like to come out and remind Laker fans that that's not actually that reasonable. That's not actually something that you could expect. And I think today we got at least a series of more realistic rumors that pertain to the Los Angeles Lakers free agency plans. So DeMar DeRozan grew up in Los Angeles. He was best friends with Romeo Miller. Romeo Miller went to Beverly High. He was actually on one of my friend's basketball teams while we were growing up, but DeMar DeRozan ended up being so good that he eventually went to USC and was good enough to be drafted in the top 10 in one of the best drafts in the past 2 decades, which was the 2009 NBA draft. DeRozan would get drafted by the Toronto Raptors, and of course at some point Kyle Lowry would get traded to the Toronto Raptors, and one of the cute storylines about these two was the bromance that they formed with one another. Now, ultimately, the pair would have to split because the Toronto Raptors traded DeMar DeRozan to the San Antonio Spurs to bring in Kawhi Leonard for a year, and the Raptors would end up winning an NBA championship while the Spurs struggled to rebuild around LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan. Now, DeMar DeRozan is set to become a free agent at the age of 31 years old, and at this point, you have to ponder what is important to DeMar DeRozan going into the 13th year of his career. Does he want to prioritize making money, or does he want to give himself an opportunity to win a championship? Does he miss living at home? Does he want to return to LA? Well, there's a rumor that suggests that, and this is according to B.A. Turner, which I'm going to be honest, I've never heard of this source in my life, so take this the way you want to take it, but to be honest, I think this is somewhat reasonable, which is why I'm bringing it to you guys. DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry are reportedly interested in joining the Los Angeles Lakers, so this is something that I think is somewhat plausible. I think Kyle Lowry is actually a very attainable player for the Lakers to bring on. He's 35 years old at this stage of his career, so you wouldn't imagine him commanding a huge salary. I feel like the Los Angeles Lakers could potentially target him with a mid-level exception, or even if they're able to work some sort of contract magic, and if Kyle Lowry chooses to do this, they could potentially sign him for even less, but that's kind of a pipe dream. And apparently DeMar DeRozan would want to join and even take a pay cut to join the Los Angeles Lakers as well. Now, the rumor suggests that DeMar DeRozan would be okay taking less than $27.7 million, which is what he earned last season in San Antonio, according to people that are not authorized to speak publicly on the matter. So it's a very interesting rumor. Apparently Spencer Dinwiddie is interested in this as well, and I honestly can actually believe this rumor. It's not like Russell Westbrook is going to get traded to the Lakers for peanuts on the dollar. It's not like the Suns are going to trade Chris Paul to the Lakers after becoming Western Conference champions. This is something that actually seems fairly reasonable to me, but the question is, how much of a pay cut would DeMar DeRozan be willing to take? And the same goes for Kyle Lowry, because I can imagine the Philadelphia 76ers also being a very interesting destination for Kyle Lowry, a team that could really use his skill set at the point guard position. And also Kyle Lowry is a native of Philadelphia, so I'd imagine him wanting to go there instead. So this is part one of this gigantic video we have for you guys. So let me know in the comment section down below if you're buying this rumor or if you're selling this rumor. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this a 6 out of 10 in terms of how much I believe this. But now we gotta discuss the existing players on the Los Angeles Lakers, and the first guy we're gonna be discussing is Talen Horton-Tucker, a player that, in my opinion, is probably the best trade piece that the Lakers would have. The Lakers officially extended a qualifying offer to Talen Horton-Tucker, which means that they will have the ability to match any contract that he is offered in restricted free agency. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to match any contract that he is given. Gauging Talen Horton-Tucker's value is very tricky for me personally. I personally don't know how much I would be willing to pay to keep him on the roster. Bear in mind, this is a player that averaged 9 points per game, 2.8 assists per game. Obviously, he played only 20 minutes per game and had a player efficiency rating of 13 when he did play. So the fact that the Lakers do have the option to retain him if they absolutely loved him and absolutely really wanted to is great. He is a tremendous defensive player, but his future with the Lakers remains to be seen. What's really fascinating is, and this is one of those rumors that has been consistent throughout the offseason, it's yet we received another hint that Kyle Kuzma really doesn't want to be on the Los Angeles Lakers anymore. Bear in mind, this is very fascinating because this is a guy that literally wore a Hand of the King sigil to signify his loyalty to LeBron James. We made a video a couple weeks ago saying that LeBron James apparently doesn't get along with Kyle Kuzma, and Kyle Kuzma feels like he's being held back by playing on the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I don't really know so much about Kyle Kuzma not getting along with LeBron James. I think that's some media narrative that could potentially be distorted, just because obviously any type of drama that pertains to LeBron James will drive up a ton of clicks, and I'm just going to be honest with you guys. But in this scenario, I do believe that Kyle Kuzma does feel like the Los Angeles Lakers are holding him back, because at this point, he's just a role player. He's no longer the player that was dominating the way he was before Anthony Davis got to LA. Kyle Kuzma experienced the most success in his career when LeBron James joined the Lakers, and he was the second option. Although the Lakers didn't experience a ton of team success during that time, they didn't even make it to the playoffs. Obviously, LeBron had to deal with some injuries that year as well. Statistically speaking, Kyle Kuzma dominated. But then Kyle Kuzma started saying some really strange stuff. If you remember, about a month ago, Kyle Kuzma came out and compared himself to Kawhi Leonard, saying that Kawhi Leonard was a Spur for years, waiting his turn behind Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and then he did his thing. My time is coming. And this was a year ago, which just happened to pop up recently. But now there are reports that Kyle Kuzma actually perceives himself the same way as Jason Tatum. And this is coming via Eric Pincus, saying that I think that Kyle Kuzma perceives himself as someone like Jason Tatum. I think that's how he views himself, and that's great. You should view yourself as one of the best young players in the league. Now, in addition to all this, in addition to the fact that Kyle Kuzma might be held back by his role in the Los Angeles Lakers, and the fact that he has 2 years to prove that he could be a franchise cornerstone in the NBA to secure a huge payday, there's been reports in regards to the Lakers team chemistry last year. So if you guys watched Laker basketball over the past year, obviously something was off. From the very beginning, the fact that the Lakers only had 57 days off between their 2020 NBA championship and the very first game of the season, the fact that at some point injuries definitely caught up with the Los Angeles Lakers and the fact that they were also integrating a ton of brand new pieces. Gone were players like Danny Green, Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard, and JaVale McGee, and in came players like Marc Gasol, Dennis Schroder, Wesley Matthews, and Montrezl Harrell, which, by the way, apparently Montrezl Harrell is leaning towards re-signing with the Lakers. Well, apparently, according to Jordan Schultz, league sources say that Dennis Schroder and Kyle Kuzma feuded throughout the season, with things going further south during the Lakers' first-round series loss to Phoenix, which is an interesting note to consider heading into the draft and free agency. I find this to be very comical because Laker fans would know that we were all absolutely roasting Kyle Kuzma and Dennis Schroder throughout the first-round series against the Phoenix Suns. I mean, I literally photoshopped Kyle Kuzma in a Shanghai Sharks jersey, for crying out loud, in my last video on him. Laker fans were destroying Dennis Schroder for turning down a contract and then absolutely stinking it up in the NBA playoffs. And again, of course, winning does cure everything, but in the Lakers' case, they weren't really doing much winning. So that's the update I have for you guys in regards to the Los Angeles Lakers. A ton of news and rumors in regards to the Los Angeles Lakers today, so let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think, because I have another video I have to make for you guys in regards to the Golden State Warriors. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.